Hello, everyone. Welcome to our channel, Automation Rocketship. We are back with our crew with Andy Menon and Pradeep Shukla on a very interesting topic about UiPath Marketplace. So today we have Andy who's going to walk us through what is this UiPath Marketplace and how to use the components within them. Over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Priya. Hello, everybody. This week, we are going to talk about the basics of the UiPath Marketplace. And I'm going to walk you through the Marketplace website, which is basically a UiPath property where producers of technology for UiPath and consumers of UiPath technology get together in one place, either to contribute to the capabilities of UiPath or to consume technology features or functionalities that they can find useful for their business. Now, the participants in a UiPath marketplace could be consumers such as UiPath developers, UiPath enthusiasts, UiPath businesses, and producers could be, again, individual contributors, technology evangelists, UiPath, the company itself, or any other UiPath technology partner or a company that offers UiPath products and services as part of their business, right? So with that, I'm going to share my screen and we will walk through the UiPath marketplace together.
And bit of brief history. I'm sure, Andy, since you have been part of it for a long time, sometime back it used to be called as UiPath Go, right?
Go.
That's how they started
Correct.
They launched the marketplace and they renamed it as UiPath Marketplace.
Correct.
I don't know if you remember the Connect part, at some point they also called it the UiPath Connect, then it became Go, and now the marketplace.
Right. So I hope you can see my screen, team. I think you are going to see UiPath Marketplace homepage.
Yeah, yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So to get to the UiPath Marketplace, you go to your browser and type in marketplace.uipath.com and you will be met with this page. And the first thing that you see when you get to this page is our tiles that are prominently placed in your field of vision. And these tiles are there for a reason. They make it extremely easy for especially the consumers of UiPath technology to find things that they might use for their projects or for their business, right? For example, if you look at this tile here, it says Studio Best of Activities. That means if you are a UiPath developer who spends a lot of time in UiPath Studio and you're trying to solve a problem, but you do not want to reinvent the wheel, you might just get lucky clicking on this tile, because if you click on this tile, it's going to take you to a listing of some of the best activities that have been actually contributed by others to the marketplace. And most of them are free. And all you might have to do is, study the listing, download it, and use it in your own projects, right? Similarly, if you are a UiPath business analyst or someone in the line of business in the front end or handling the front end business, and you are using something like Studio X to build automations as a citizen developer, it is possible that you are trying to build an automation that solves a problem and that is already available to you. So in which case you might want to click on this green tile here that says ready to go automations.
Yeah, and these automations are pretty handy. Some of these automations that I have been part of it, they are attended robots. So you can just right away download it, configure it on your assistant, and you're good to go. Some of the very simple examples, I remember that your disk cleanup activities, or your updating your browser activities, or if you have browser favorites, you can move and sync them all across all different browsers that you may have. I think I remember one of the very interesting ones was where you can upload a profile picture on all your social media. So you have to you can use one single picture and upload it on all of your social media. So yeah, they are pretty nifty utilities, the way I look at it. But yeah, if anyone is looking for it, they can really find some interesting use cases here.
Yeah, and I think our community is very creative on that front. They come up with very good, like, templates or kind of automations. And another point to add is this comes in very handy for new people, like Andy mentioned, like for someone that doesn't know like how to build their first bot, or they are like, they want to skip ahead the academy course. And instead they just want to see what an automation looks like. They can just download this and reverse engineer of what automation workflow looks like.
Sure. So you can, getting back to the collections here, you can see that as you go to the right, some of them are more and more classified towards greater capabilities of automations. For example, if you look at the integration activities, uh, it talks about how to expand the scope of your or the capabilities of your UiPath project to integrate with external systems. So if you're familiar with integration service, then you could probably click on this tile. Similarly, there are a lot of toolkits which are like aftermarket parts for for attended automations, which you can tap into by clicking on this tile here. This is not all. If you take the time to scroll down, what you get to see is a presentation of all the marketplace components that are trending, meaning that have been popular for quite some time. And it is possible that if you're lucky, that the problem you're trying to solve is one of the components here. For example, here is something called generate random password. In case you're looking for a solution to generate a random password, it's right here and you don't have to reinvent it, right? So you just might get lucky, you don't know. And then you scroll all the way down, you will see some recently published components or marketplace contributions. And these are fairly new. And it is also possible that the problem you're looking to solve might be listed among one of these contributions. And one of the things that I like about the recently published is it is possible that you might take the opportunity to be one of the first users and also one of the first persons to give feedback to the contributor, telling them what you liked about the component and what you did not like and how you could make it better. So please do take the time to scroll the first page as soon as you hit the marketplace. It is possible that you might find what you're looking for.
I think the search feature is pretty handy as well.
Right.
You can directly search and start looking into it. I think there are some categories of automation as well. I believe other than these standard automations, they had categories for templates and for machine learning models as well in the marketplace.
Correct.
So if someone is looking for those use cases, they can find them too here.
Right. And that's true what Pradeep says too. If you are running short of time and you really don't have the time to scan this page and look for something, you could start by looking at the search bar here, which most of us are pretty used to doing in the modern times, given Google search is so prominent. You could do the same thing here on the marketplace as well. But we'll get to that in a few. But me being a developer by nature, I'm partial to this tile here. So I'm going to click on this, the blue tile, and we are going to go and see what are the best of activities listed under this tile. So if I click on this tile, and here you can find several of these activities that have been listed as some of the best. And these could be free, these could be paid, and which means that the publisher of this component expects to be compensated for using their contribution. And some of them can be are free, and you can there is no restriction to downloading and using them other than accepting the licensing terms. For example, here's one on DocuSign, which is free. Similarly, there are some on PDF. My favorite is the PDF redactor component that was published by UiPath, which is pretty awesome. And one of the other things that you might like to focus on are the Excel automation components, pretty popular, looking at the number of downloads that are here on, on this tile. So this is one of the first overviews you can get by clicking on any one of these tiles, or when you're looking at the listings of these components. Now, I would really like to cover what are the different types of contributions that you can make or you can consume from the UiPath Marketplace. The first type of contribution is a template, which is the most common, because a template is something that a contributor has built by using UiPath technology itself, right? And if you are a UiPath Studio developer and you are working in UiPath Studio and you found a solution to a problem that you can present as a reusable template, then you would build a template and contribute it to the marketplace, right? The UiPath's RE framework is a classic example, or a very popular example of a template contribution, because if you look for RE framework here, you will find it. And you will also find several templates that have been contributed by other marketplace users or members of the marketplace.
Yep.
The second is slightly a bit more complicated. It's a library. Now, a library, as you all know, if you're familiar with UiPath Studio, you can build library projects. So a library is basically a reusable piece of functionality. It does not have a front-end UI, most often than not. For example, I have published a component which is a library. What it does is, if you don't want any one of the sensitive logging information to be logged to production, you can mark that message as sensitive, and then when you deploy your project to production, the logging for that message will be shut off automatically. But when you are doing development in the dev environment, it will be enabled automatically so that you can see those logs in your development environment. Now, that component does not have a UI, but it is built using UiPath technology stack. That's a library, right? The third type of component is the custom component of UiPath. This is one of the highest levels of functionality that you can build. That is because it takes you out of the UiPath environment. And if you are a seasoned developer using Visual Studio, you can then take UiPath's development kit and build an entirely new component, which might be a library or a studio activity or an integration service connector itself, right? For that, you have to be like really seasoned. And that is a custom component in UiPath. So guys, remind me if I have forgotten anything else, because we covered the template, we covered the library, we covered the custom component. I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, I mean, even one of the highest examples, I would say, for components, that test automation product right now that we have today from UiPath, it started as a template.
Yep.
And I remember using it when it was initially launched for one of the POCs. And I think it's within 6 months, in the next release, it was launched as a test automation project. So anything that comes out as a template or component, they are definitely great functionalities, and they are a great add-on to what UiPath already offers.
Right.
Yeah, and I think like with the tools, like Andy, you mentioned that as templates and the components, right? So one of the major tools that we used in like the consulting world, especially if you're out at different clients and there's like clients migrating from on-prem orchestrator to the automation cloud, or like even if they don't have like a CI/CD level of integration, what happens is people want to like migrate their assets, queues, and their entities literally from one orchestrator to the other. That's when this orchestrator manager, which is actually a component, which is a toolkit that's released by UiPath itself, and the publisher is UiPath. So that's one of the tools that's very handy. I'm pretty sure like each of us have used it at some point in time.
Right. So if I now click on UiPath here, here it is. There are several components here that show up that are by UiPath, right? And one of the other things that you got to note here is that there are several categories of these components other than being free or paid. There are others too. They are irrespective of whether they are free or paid. The other classifications that you will see on the listing tile here would be the badges, right? And primarily there are a couple of badges. One is the gold and one is the silver certified. And we will cover that in the next episode because, understanding that has a little more detail into it. But
But it's
the
more on the
gold,
compliance side, right? It's
correct.
more on the
It's
compliance
more
of
on
your
the
comp.
compliance,
Yeah.
and then UiPath has got some of the rules that we have to follow, and they do some testing, etc. So based on that, you have either the gold, which is the highest certification, or the silver, right? But you can also see that silver certified components are free. Similarly, gold certified components can also be free. So it's independent of the fact that whether they are paid or free, right? If you are looking at any one of these, it means that UiPath has reviewed them, tested them, and certified them so that you may use it without being overtly concerned about any kind of security issues or one of the questions that I heard when initially I was developing libraries was when you scan UiPath code, you got to, one of the guidelines you got to make sure before it goes to testing or production is, has the developer put in something that can compromise your information? Meaning, have they put in some functionality that will take whatever input you give to the automation and post it to a site that is owned by the developer, right? Very important because UiPath is a very powerful, the UiPath RPA or RPA in general is a very powerful technology. And if not handled correctly, it can get pretty invasive. And that is one thing that publishers and consumers of technology have to always keep in mind. And using components that are gold or silver certified kind of eases that process, meaning because UiPath has checked those components, tested them, and certified them to a certain degree. So the next thing that you might want to take a look at is how to find the component that you intend to find, and then study its listing. So what I'll be doing is I'll be showcasing this by exemplifying one of my own listings. That's because I really do not have to take permission from anyone to sort of exhibit their listing here without their permission. So I'm going to take a look at what this search will return. So I'm going to hit Enterprise RPA Template and see if I can bring up my listings quickly. And here they are. You can see that a couple of these components that were posted by RPA Vanguard are listed in the search results. So one is gold certified, the other is silver, but let's go look at the template first. The listing page is designed to be extremely simple, so you can get enough information about what that component does pretty quickly. The main area comprises of screenshots that the publisher might have published to help consumers understand what that component does. And you could scroll, the screenshots. Alternately, some of the contributors would have posted videos. By watching those videos, you get a better sense of what that component does. And on the right is the publisher link. And this is useful because if a component interests you, then you could click on this link to go to a page that will list all the other components contributed by this publisher, right? Which is good because if this publisher is something that you have used components before and you have found them to be reliable, this is one of the ways you can jump directly to see all listings from that publisher, right? The other thing that you have to keep in mind is licensing and the privacy. Contributors will have the ability to license their products under different licensing terms. And this was, of course, published under Apache, but there are other licenses like the BSD license and the MIT license. And we'll talk about that in a future video. But most free-to-use components will be licensed under Apache or the 3-clause, 2-clause BSD or the MIT license. And then, of course, there are technical details. Please do take a look at this because it is very important at this point in time in 2022, because we are at this point where the UiPath product stack is transitioning from the previously supported .NET version 4 to .NET version 5 and higher. So it is possible that some of the older components will have to be updated to work with the 2022 UiPath version. In which case, what happens is publishers such as myself would get an email from UiPath saying, hey, your component is too old. It has to be upgraded because we will start excluding them from the marketplace, right? Which makes sense because there's no point in having an obsolete component that is not going to work with your 2022 or 2020 version of UiPath Studio, because anything 2019 and previous is too old.
Since
Right.
they keep changing the versions every 6 months, right?
Correct.
The long term.
But there is some, but there is some leeway
Backward
when it goes to backward
compatibility.
compatibility, but not too much. I think
Yeah,
2019 is going away and 2020 is also slowly going away.
Yeah.
And as for the consumer side as well, like to Andy's point, where you get a notification, not just for the creators, but also, let's say you download this template and you start using, and Andy, as the creator, he publishes the newer version.
Right.
And then, like, if you downloaded this using your account, you will receive a notification saying, like, hey, there's a new version. Do you want to
Correct.
update your
Correct.
process?
Correct. Most often that the subject line of that email will be your listing has been updated, right? And you can get to go there and see what was that listing that you used and whether you would want to adopt a new one. And of course, here are the, of course, the text part of it, where there is a summarization of what this component does, what are the features, and of course, what are the dependencies and any additional information that the publisher would have made it, publisher would have thought that it is important for the consumers to know, right? The useful part of the listing here, I believe, would be the resources. And I'm saying that because contributors to the marketplace will take a lot of time and effort to publish documentation about their listing where available, right? And as consumers, I would request them to spend some time to scan through the documentation, because it is possible that you might be struggling 4 hours with a problem while using this component, and the answer may lie in the document, right? I think scanning the document for 5 minutes is a lot less troublesome than raising a ticket with the publisher,
right?
Or troubleshooting for 4 hours, not finding a solution to the problem, right? For example, I do not want to show this in public, but with this listing, I received a question. You see, I had a question, and the question was asked by one of the users, hey, where is the password to that database that you published? And it's there in the document, right? Now, I took several days to come back to this listing to answer his question, but had the consumer looked into the document, they would have found the password, right? So please do take some time to, to look at the documentation. It might save you hours in troubleshooting or, getting up and running with a component. Right?
Yeah, I'd like to emphasize on Andy's point here, like about the documentation. So all these components that are available in Marketplace, think of them as like little Lego blocks. These are like ready to start using them. So these are like plug and play type of components that are available, be it templates, snippets, whatever. These are just readily available. So for you to use them, if these are like products, then they will obviously like come with a certain level of user manual. So these documentation that Andy is mentioning is literally that, very simple form of user manual that tells you what this component does.
Right.
So every time you get a component, before you even download, see if that fits your purpose. So that's where the documentation truly helps us.
Right. And the other thing that, before, all this, you have looked at all the listing and now you want to download the component. Some of the things that you might want to see is also the number of downloads too. It can give you a sense of, how well this has performed, right?
Yep.
And also look at the reviews section, because some users are very gracious to leave feedback, and that I highly encourage that, because if you are consuming something that has been written by someone else and contributed by someone else, you could help spread the word around by leaving a review saying, hey, it solved my problem. And it can also be a review about what you didn't like. That would also help the publisher make the component better and republish it so that other users can benefit. And in that way, what you have done is, by using the first release of the component or the present release, you have helped the publisher produce a better component, in which again translates to the benefit of everybody in the marketplace, right? For example, if you look at the review I received on this component, there was, when I published it, this user went through this component, looked at the documentation, set up a project, and then wrote a review, which I'm very grateful for, right? And even something like a small feedback like this definitely goes a long way in helping others trying to use a component, right? So please do help us help you, right? Please do leave a feedback.
Absolutely. And Andy, to your point, if there are new content creators or component creators, these kind of reviews acts as the motivation for
Correct.
them to create more such new components.
Correct.
If there is no review and you just wanted to try and just test it out, whether you used it in a project or not, like whether you just got your hands and you tried and tested it, then just come back and just leave a review. That truly motivates the component creator for sure.
Absolutely. The last thing that you might want to do is, yes, I want to download a component. What do I do? You don't need any special, privileges to get into Marketplace. It's a marketplace, right? A marketplace is usually a public place. All you need to do is sign in with your automation cloud credentials. As you all know, UiPath has got unified login. So the same automation cloud account can be used to log into Marketplace. So please do sign in, and then you will be able to download this component to your machine, right? It's as simple as that, right? From here on, how you're going to use the component depends on the nature of component that you're downloading. Whether it's a UiPath Studio activity, or whether it's a project template, or whether it's a UiPath library, right? So in the last piece of this video, before we wind up, we are going to see an example of how to use a library component, and I'm going to demonstrate that by using my own listing, which is called prime logging, and we'll look into that next.